from each happily ever after, every wish upon a star. Let's break down the movies that shaped who we are, from memory lane to now and everything in between. The most famous of films to the ones we've never seen. Decade by decade, all the times we laughed and cried, and with a little pixie dust, they will all take flight, reliving the feelings, and we're trying our very best. And if they mean the same to you, please be our guest. So hop aboard, we would love to have you as we hang with a certain mouth, the whole gang too. If you love nostalgia stuff, we hope this does the trick. Thanks for joining us as we deep dive the magic.
Hi, and welcome back to the Deep Diving the Magic podcast. I'm KJ.
And I'm Jeffrey. And we have made it to the year 1966. The first film of the year 1966 is the 78th Disney feature-length film from February 16th of 1966. Like I said, it is The Ugly Dachshund. All right, let's just start. The word is spelled Dachshund. It is Dachshund.
It's a dachshund.
Whatever. Okay, it's a dachshund.
Dachshund.
Whatever. So the Ugly Dachshund, as it's spelt, is the we have the return of Dean Jones from the previous couple films. We're also introducing to the Disney film world Suzanne Pleshette, who has Disney Disney film credits. They go all the way up to the year 1998. She's going to be in a few films coming up. Mm-hmm. And then this is based on a 1938 novel by G.B. Stern.
Yeah.
Anything that you'd like to start us off with, a synopsis or some opening facts about the film?
Well, when I was little, I had a Dachshund.
Dachshund.
A dachshund. A doxy. His name was Digger. He was brown, and he liked to dig things.
Okay. That's your synopsis?
That was my synopsis. No, that was my opening thoughts.
Yeah.
So I actually, and our dog is part Dachshund.
Dachshund.
No, Dachshund. Anyway, so synopsis here. The Garrisons live with a Great Dane who thinks he's a dainty Dachshund. His identity crisis results in an uproarious series of household crises that reduce the Garrison's house to shambles.
He's a fun dog, but we'll get there in the story. I mean, what else? What do you think?
Well, going off the title of it, I wasn't expecting there to be a Great Dane. I just thought, how can you call a Dachshund ugly? They're just adorable. But anyway.
Well, no spoilers. We'll get there.
Yeah, so I think the synopsis kind of spoiled it for you.
Any other facts or anything? Any other thoughts before we dive right in?
No, I'll get to the facts and trivia at the end.
All right. Well, then let's go ahead and do our 78th deep dive. Go for it.
All right. So the movie starts off with the couple known as the Garrisons. The husband's name is Mark. The wife's name is Fran. And you see them like in shambles this morning. And she's in the bathroom. He's trying to get dressed. He ends up putting his sweater on over his pajama top. He's trying to call the doctor
on the rotary phone.
And ends up somehow with the phone cord in his sleeve. I don't know. It was a whole big mess. Mm-hmm. And he was like, "Yep, she says it's time. Yes, I'll get her there." So you see them rush out to the car. It's all a mess. He almost runs over the milkman.
The milkman says, "Let me know when you want more product." Because the family's growing. Okay, that was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then they drive off, speeding.
Yeah, it shows like the old fashioned like speedometer, like getting higher and higher and higher on the car.
So they're going 60 miles per hour. And apparently it was in a 35-mile-per-hour zone. And a police officer sees this and he tries to pull them over, but Mark points over at his wife and is saying, like, hospital, we're going to the hospital. And then the police officer's like, oh, okay. And then he gets in front of them and turns the sirens on. And it was,
He gives him like a
yeah, like
police lead.
yeah, but it was the worst background.
I didn't know this.
The background, you can definitely tell it was like a green screen or something because it definitely did not match like what was going on perfectly. Because the officer's on a motorcycle, and I don't think I said that.
Yeah.
And the couple then follows. He's like, "Oh, that's very nice of him." And then the policeman gets up to the hospital, pulls over into the hospital, and is like, "Yeah, get the stretcher. Da, da, da. We've got someone coming." And then all the staff at the hospital is looking at him like, "What are you talking about?" And that's when he turns around and realizes they didn't follow him to the hospital. And then he looks and he sees them still going down the road, and he's like, well, I'll be. So he takes off after them still. And he finds them parked outside of a vet.
The animal hospital.
The animal hospital. And you see Mark park the car, and Fran gets out with a Dachshund wrapped up in towels, and the vet opens the door and she goes in. So at this point, you find out that the wife was not pregnant. It's their dog, Donka, the Dachshund.
The pride and joy.
The pride and joy. Award-winning Dachshund.
Blue Ribbon Award winning. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, so at this point, the officer pulls up to Mark and he's talking to him, and he's like, oh, well, so your wife's not having a baby. And he's like, oh, no, it's the dog. Da, da, da. It's all a mess. He's like, oh, yeah, you just were all distraught, which he actually was. I mean, if you looked at his presentation, obviously, you could still see his pajama shirt is underneath his sweater.
But the cop says, well, my dog had its puppies in my dresser drawer on top of my shirts.
Yeah. So the police officers just like this. That's no excuse. So basically, he ends up giving him a ticket. So he cites him for going 60 and 30, which later I think he changes it to say it was a 40-mile-an-hour. He said, well, I was not going that much. But he really was going 60. We saw it. He got cited for crossing over the yellow line. He also got cited for speeding in a hospital zone, which I did not know was a thing.
Can I do a side note here about hospital zones?
Sure.
When my band was on tour, we broke down when our transmission blew, and we were like blocking the entrance to a hospital. So we were like really stressed about having to like push out of the way for like the emergency entrance. But sorry, that's side note. Go ahead.
Anyway, he also got cited for not having his license on him because he obviously forgot that at home because he was just a mess when he was leaving. And then the last thing he got cited for was parking in a no parking zone.
Yeah, it was an expensive ticket.
Yeah. So that was an eventful day for him.
But the dog made it.
The dog made it. The dog ended up having 3 puppies.
Correct.
And then she was going to stay in the hospital overnight, and then they were going to go get her the next day. So then, let's see. Oh, the ticket violations ended up totaling a grand total of $110. Did you look that up?
No, I don't know. I mean, I can while you're talking. Go ahead.
Okay. So $110 for all his traffic violations. And then him and his wife go home. So the Garrisons go back home. And I thought it was interesting because they basically slept in I Love Lucy style beds. Like each one of them had their own twin bed.
It's $1,078.
Okay.
It's an expensive ticket.
Yeah. Well, expensive tickets because he got cited for multiple things, not just like one thing. So,
got that due to promotion. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. So basically, he can't get to sleep because the wife keeps trying to come up with names for the puppies because they can't be entered into shows until they have their registrations and they have to have good names. So she's coming up with all these names, and at one point he just like takes the pillow and like puts it over his head, like, God, I just want to go to bed. So then the next day, Mark ends up going to the vet to go pick up Donka and the 3 puppies. And it was of note that they were told that all the puppies were female, and all he wanted was a male puppy. He wanted his own dog.
He's outnumbered.
Yeah, and he goes, well, my luck continues. I forgot that part when he was like driving off when they were leaving. But he goes to pick up the puppies and the mom, and Mrs. Garrison has decided to name the puppies Wilhelmina, Heidi, and Chloe. So
Wilhelmina.
Anyway, but the vet mentions to Mark that his Great Dane, Duchess, had also had a litter of puppies, and she had a ton of puppies. And apparently a low milk supply was what the vet told him. And Mark had made a comment when he took him back and he was looking at him. He's like, what I wouldn't do to have a dog like that.
Yeah, it's a dog.
Yeah. And then they go back into another room, and then he's got this little puppy, and he's like, what's wrong with this one? He's like, oh, nothing's wrong with it yet. I'm just feeding it because Duchess pushed it away. And he was like, well, why would she do that? When he was like, well, the litter was really big and she doesn't have enough milk. So basically, he's going to have to feed the dog or the dog's not going to make it. And then he mentions to Mark that Donka has too much milk. She could be the wet nurse for this Great Dane puppy.
So what you're saying is that the milkman in the beginning is not going to be able to give them more supply because the pup actually has too much milk already.
Yeah.
So actually, it's going to be less of a. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. Although when Mark brings her home and she tells him that it's cold, get the dogs in or whatever, she says, I'm going to go make Donka some milk.
She can't drink her own milk. That's creepy.
I know, but I've never heard of giving a dog milk, especially like,
I don't know,
like an older dog. I don't know. Anyway, I thought that was weird. So maybe the milkman would actually get a profit from this. I don't know. So she opens up the basket when he gets home that was sitting in the passenger seat, and she's like, oh, she had another puppy. And he was like, well, and she just keeps like saying things like, so Mark never mentions that.
He tries though.
Yeah, he was trying to like tell her, but she kept interrupting him. And she was like, oh, well, and it looks so different. It must be because it was born later. I don't know why the doctor wouldn't call and tell us. And okay, well, it's cold. Get them inside now. And it's like, he never had the chance to say anything. Like, well, it's not hers.
I brought home the other pup.
Yeah. So anyway, she doesn't know, I guess, how she doesn't know, I don't know. Anyway, but then she told Mark that he should thank Donka and he should be nice to her now because she finally gave him a boy puppy like he always wanted. And then it goes to a scene where he is in his work studio and he's on the phone with the vet.
He's like
an artist. Yeah, so he's in his work studio.
That house is way too nice for him to just be an artist. Sorry, by the way.
I don't know. Anyway, so he's on the phone in the work studio. And he's talking to the vet, and the vet's like, well, have you told her yet?
Sorry to sidetrack. I just thought of this. You know who else was an artist and had a bunch of puppies? 101 Dalmatians, our number one film on our list upon a star.
Okay.
A
Anyway.
much better film. Sorry, continue.
Okay. So, all right. Now you've got me all off track. So he's on the phone. The vet telling him, like, well, you've got to tell Fran at some point that it's a Great Dane puppy. It's not a Dachshund. He's like, oh, they're still in the basket. Like, I've still got some time before I have to tell her. And then, like, in the background, you can see the painting that he's working on, and it's 4 Dachshunds and a Great Dane. Like, they're all looking at the Great Dane. And he gets off the phone. Fran walks in, and she's telling him something about the puppies, and he's like, oh,
they're walking behind him. So.
Yeah, she's like, so who was that? And he was like, oh, it's such and such. I'm working on a piece for them. Like, he doesn't want to tell her who he's on the phone with. And then she's like, oh, is this it? And then she looks and she's like, oh, look, it's Doxies. And he's like, yeah. And what's that big thing behind them? And he's like, oh, I don't know. I haven't decided yet. And she's like, it could be a Great Dane. It would be a great thing for that. Like, I think a Great Dane would be perfect. And he's like, well, I don't know, maybe. And then she's like, okay, come on in, girls. And the girls are like walking in, and you see all these little Doxies coming. And then Brutus.
You didn't mention the
oh, yeah, he came up with his name as Brutus.
He comes stumbling in with his big paws and his...
Yeah, so he's like obviously a Great Dane puppy, and he's way bigger than the Doxies, and he's still not grown into his head or his paws. Mm-hmm. And she's like, so when were you going to tell me? And he's like, well, I never told you that he was a Doxie. And she was like, well,
it's true.
And he's like, I tried.
This is where she starts to be snooty and ridiculous.
Yeah, so she starts to be kind of like hateful to him and towards Brutus. Like, she's really a Dachshund fan. She doesn't want a Great Dane in her house.
She's
like,
definitely not a Mark fan.
I don't know how they're coupled, to be honest.
She's very like, what's the actress's name? Like Zsa Zsa Gabor.
I guess. Yeah. So anyway, it ends up being she tells him he has to go take the dog back. So he takes the dog back. And then a little bit later, it ends up being his birthday, and apparently they had tickets to something. I don't remember specifically what they had tickets for, and they were going to go out to dinner, and she brings out champagne. He's like, we don't have time for this. And she was like, well, no, we have plenty of time. We're just going to stay home. The car is
out front, and we have reservations. She's horrible. Sorry. Continue.
Yeah. So he's like, so we're not going anywhere. And she's like, no, we're gonna celebrate here at home.
She's like, I'm all
with the Doxies. And he's like, I don't want to celebrate my birthday with the Doxies. And she's like, well,
they want to celebrate with you.
Yeah. So anyway, he starts getting these gifts. The Dachshunds carry the gifts in one at a time for him. And he opens them.
It was a tie.
Yeah, he got a tie.
It was a pipe, but he had stopped smoking
a month ago.
It was like a jewelry box that was playing the wrong song.
Yeah, I don't know for sure if it was a jewelry box or what kind of box it was, but it was playing a song, but it wasn't the song that it played in the store. So she got the wrong one.
So he's all upset.
But that goes back to one of my trivia things. So the song that it was playing is the same tune that the dog catcher hums in Lady and the Tramp from 1955. Oh, wow.
I didn't know that. And then the fourth gift, like the mom dog, whatever you mentioned her name was.
Donka.
Brings him like a golden...
her favorite bone, and they had it
bronzed. So then he gets kind of like...
He's like, what am I going to do with this? He goes, I don't know. It could be a paperweight.
So he's just over... He's over these dogs. He's over the... Like losing his pup. He's over... this awful woman. I'm sorry.
So at that point, he finally like pitches a little fit, and I don't blame him. I thought, good for you, buddy, for developing a backbone. Yay! And he's all upset. He walks into the bedroom, and they're still fighting over things. And he's like, "What is this?"
It's a giant gift.
Yeah, it was like a giant basket, and she goes, "Oh, that's your gift from me," because each one of the gifts that he got before was from each one of the Dachshunds. So then he's like, and she's like, "And you can move it yourself," and it starts moving.
Move on its own.
Yeah, so it starts moving, and he opens it up, and lo and behold, there's Brutus.
And they get like they share like a tender moment where they.
Yeah. She has like a love-hate relationship with this dog. Like one minute she likes him, the next minute she hates him. You're taking him back.
She's a love-hate relationship with her husband.
I don't know. Anyway, it was very complicated.
So Brutus is back in the picture.
Yeah, so Brutus is back. And he's basically growing up with the Dachshund puppies and starts to pretty much think he's a Dachshund. And then the Dachshunds throughout the movie get into all this like mischievous scenarios, and it somehow always ends up being Brutus's fault, even though it was pretty much the Dachshunds.
So piggyback on that, the mother, what's her name? Like the lady, Fran knits like a sweater for Donka because it's her pride and joy.
Mm-hmm.
And then they like go in the other room for something, and then like the Dachshund pups like tear apart
the Doxies.
They like tear apart not only the sweater but like all of the yarn. It's just all everywhere.
Well, they didn't specifically tear it apart.
No,
they were playing with the yarn balls like cats would.
Yeah,
but they're like running all around the
over.
living room, and it's like they basically made a maze.
Playing the piano.
Yeah, they made a maze out of these yarn balls, and one of them that was attached to the sweater is pretty much just getting unraveled. And they do play the piano. It kind of reminds you of the Siamese cats from Lady and the Tramp. Yeah, like it's a complete disaster. And then, of course, the beloved dog that you want to love is the one that gets all the blame
because they like hide back in like the dog bed like perfectly like they were not to blame.
And she was like, "Well,"
and Brutus is like
"Look at these little angels. They would never do this."
Brutus is like wrapped up in because he got stuck in the crossfire pretty much. So
yeah.
Go ahead.
So anyway, that happens. Then there's another incident where he and the Dachshunds like make a mess of the studio.
Oh, they straight up destroy it.
There's paint everywhere. Statues are broken.
That dude's livelihood is smashed because it's just a mess. But now the dogs are all covered in paint.
But it never referenced them finding the Dachshunds covered in paint.
Because they jump out the window and then they like lick themselves clean.
I know, but surely they would have found them before they licked themselves clean because they couldn't have done it that fast. But anyway, so Brutus once again gets blamed for that. And then she's like, "You've got to take him back. Like, he can't. This is ridiculous. Like, he's cost us so much money, everything that he's messed up. You gotta take him back." And then the police officer that pulled him when Donka was having her pups shows up at their house, and then he informs Mark that he got a promotion
from his money.
Yeah, from his money, because nobody's ever written that many citations in one day. And
he's a sergeant.
Yeah, and he just wanted to check in, see how things were going. Have you seen anything weird going on? There's a cat burglar in the area.
Who would steal a cat?
That's what you're supposed to ask.
Yeah.
And then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I wouldn't have asked that." And I thought to myself, I wouldn't have asked that either.
Then he goes in and he like tells his wife, and she says, "Who would steal a cat?"
Yeah, whatever. So he tells him that, and he's like, "Okay, well, bye. And then he's like barking as he's driving off, like making fun of him because of
Oh yeah, he does.
the
He says,
dogs.
"Yeah, how's the family or whatever?" And he starts
Yeah.
barking. Yeah.
Anyway, he gets what's coming to him later. Um, so anyway,
Spoilers.
really.
Go ahead.
So um that night they've decided like he can't he's got to take him back the next day.
Can can I add something?
Sure.
Because I know where you're going, and that's not why he got put there. Something else happened because I'm trying to think. Because yeah, yes, he had to bring him back, and then he had some sort of excuse about not bringing Brutus back, and then that night Brutus broke her bed, and that's when he like finally admitted that he had to bring him
Yes,
back.
because he was standing outside barking and he said, "Shut up. No,
Oh
I'm
yeah,
talking to the dog."
yeah, that's right. Okay, that makes
I
sense.
wasn't ready yet.
Well, well, it's all okay. That makes sense.
So anyway, he basically says, "Yes, okay, I guess we're going to take him back." Um, and he runs back in, breaks the bed with all the Datsuns on it. I did have a gripe because the Datsuns were supposed to be girls, and for sure one of them was not a girl. Um,
He got his wish.
yeah, so I don't know why we had to go through all this. Anyway, um, so Brutus jumps on the bed with the Doxies and Fran. The bed breaks. She's fed up at this point. She's like, just take him outside. He has to definitely go tomorrow. And he's like, okay, okay. So he takes him to the garage. He's gonna have him sleep in the garage. He's like, it'll be okay. Just go to bed. Um, I'll put this in here so you have enough air. So he shuts the garage door, but leaves a shovel underneath the garage door so that way it has airflow. Like he's gonna smother to death.
I know. Like you don't leave a door open in the house.
I whatever. I was kind of like, okay, whatever. And then I thought it was funny because you're like, sure, go ahead and leave the garage door open when there's a cat burglar around. It's like, yeah.
I mean, and that's a valid point
And there was no cat burglar, but Mark locked himself out of the house, so he couldn't get back in the house.
because he had the flashlight.
And he's kind of like looking around, trying to see if like he left the window unlocked so he can get back into the house. And he can't find it. And lo and behold, the police officer's driving by. So he's like kind of looking like, oh, I found the cat burglar. And um, so Mark starts making his way around the back of the house, I'm assuming, to go see if he can get in the back of the house. How this guy thinks that he's found the cat burglar when there's a guy clearly in a night robe walking
Maybe
around.
it's the night robe cat burglar.
Anyway, so he gets out of the car. He pulls his car into the front of the house. Then he gets out of the car with his flashlight and he's going around looking at the back um, to see if he can find the cat burglar. But at this point, I guess Brutus hears him, so he lets himself out of the garage. So then he starts chasing the policeman around a tree.
Just barking and barking and barking.
Yeah,
Barking
and
and
these
barking.
bushes, and um, eventually he chases the policeman up the tree, and he just keeps barking at the police officer. And the wife says, "Mark, just give up," and hands him two cotton balls. And she's already got two cotton balls in her ear, and I thought those aren't going to do anything, but
It
okay.
worked.
They didn't do anything. Trust me. I've had to do that as a child, and they don't do anything.
It worked
So
in the film.
yeah, supposedly, as the police officer is yelling for him to come outside because he's trapped in the tree by the dog, and then you hear the
Yeah.
police scanner go off, and they're trying to get him to respond to the street that he's on because there was a call of a disturbance of a dog barking, and they want him to investigate. Which he's the one that actually caused the incident. So he was the first one on scene. I said when we watched that scene. So then the next morning, she made him breakfast. She's trying to be a little nicer to him. And I don't remember if he heard something barking or what. Maybe he just went outside. And
He
he's
was on outside
like,
because then he saw the cop car.
yeah. And then he's like looking, and then he's like, up here. But his like voice is all scratchy, probably from yelling all
Because he
night
was yelling
to
all
try
night,
to
yeah.
get help.
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, well, why are you up there? And he's like, your dog trapped me up here. Um, and then he's like, oh, he must have thought you were the cat burglar. I have to tell my wife. She'll never believe this. And he's like, no, 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 just let me get down. And he's like, he calls for Fran. And she's like, what's going on? And he's like, well, Brutus thought this was a cat burglar. She's like, well, it's a police officer. And he's like, yeah, but he wouldn't know the difference. He protected us and saved us in our home. And she was like, yeah, just get the police officer down. Poor Brutus. Still in trouble. But at this point, she's not being like, you have to take him back. So Mark has something on his side this time because Brutus saved him.
So then the cop gets down
Yeah.
and like crawls his way like into the car, but the car's dead.
Yeah.
That dude's having a bad day.
You know what though? He deserved to have a bad
That's
day.
right. Yeah.
Karma. Anyway. So then you find out they're having a garden party because they haven't hosted a party in, I think she said 6 months or something. So they're having this party. It's being catered. I forgot what their name was.
Just some Japanese food.
Yeah, it was like hibachi, but there's a Japanese catering company.
Mm-hmm.
So he came and he's like, oh, well, we came to set up early. She's like, oh, well, we're still eating breakfast because we weren't expecting you. If you could just go around the back. And he's like, okay. And then she's telling Mark as they're finishing up their breakfast that the caterers are already here. They're in the back. They're going to start setting stuff up because they have to be ready by 6. And can you please be here because I never know if something last minute will happen. And he's like, well, if the caterers are doing everything, like what do I actually need to be here for? And she's like, well, you never know. And then all of a sudden you hear like lots of barking. And he's like, what is that? And she goes, things like this. This is why you need to be here. And then it you go to the front of the house. I think they were around the house because I think they were maybe carrying stuff to the back of the house. And Brutus is in the bushes with the, I guess, boss of the catering company. And his nephew that was helping him is up in the basically the tree that the police officer was in earlier, and they keep yelling lion. So they have mistaken this dog as a lion. And the boss basically like they pull Brutus off of him and then they're like, what are you doing? And he's like, this is the fastest way to confuse a wild beast. Play dead. It's
I
like,
mean, whatever, it works.
what? Which actually becomes very comical because it comes up later and it's just the funniest thing. So basically Fran tells Mark that he has to go tie him up, and he's like, okay, whatever. So he goes and ties him up. They start hosting this party that gets all set up, and apparently there's like a judge.
Well, that's the only reason she's throwing the party.
Well, we find that out later, but there's a judge from one of the dog shows that's there at the party, and then the vet's talking to her about it, and he's like, oh, well, I mean, you wouldn't be trying to smooth him, would you? And she's like, no, that's the only reason I had this party. Yeah. And then she goes and gets one of the Dachshunds, Chloe, because that's become her prize dog that's going to be the show dog. And then Mark walks up to her and he's like, well, I thought
no dogs out here.
We weren't going to have any animals out. And she's like, oh, she got out by accident when really she went and got her herself. And then the judge is like, oh, no, let her out. Doxies love to be around people. And at this point, Brutus is still tied up on the other side of the fence. And the vet's talking to Mark. And he's like, oh, well, how is Brutus? And he's like, oh, he's doing really good. Let's go see him. And he takes him this big bone. And at this point, Chloe, the prize doxie, sees it. And she's like watching because she's waiting for her moment to get this huge bone. Mm-hmm. And the vet mentions to him that Brutus would be a good show dog. he's perfect, da, da, da. And then he's like, oh no, he would never be a show dog. I don't need another one of those in the family. And then they pretty much leave Brutus to his own to let him chew on his bone, which he's very content with. But as soon as they leave, Chloe starts antagonizing Brutus and gets him all tangled up on this pole and steals his bone. But she can't get it through the hole in the fence that she fit through because the bone is too long. But then somehow she finally levers it the right way to where she gets through it. But at this point, Brutus has untangled himself, but rips the whole um, laundry. Oh, what do you call that? The laundry line, but it wasn't a laundry line, it was a circle one. But the thing that you hang your laundry up, I don't know if it specifically has a name. We always called it the laundry line, but this one wasn't.
Clothesline?
Yeah, or the clothesline, but it's not a line. It was just a pole that had several like lines on it that you would hang your laundry on. Anyway, so Brutus rips it out the ground and gets loose. And at that point, his tether to the pole is torn off too, and he jumps over the fence. And pretty much chaos ensues at this garden party. Just to sum it up, and it looks like it's all Brutus's fault, but it's Chloe's
People
fault.
are falling in the
water.
In the water. Everything is broken. Everything is a mess.
Yeah, and then finally, where Brutus gets his bone back, and then he kind of just walks in like, "Oh, look at all this."
Fran pushes Mark into the water because she's not happy.
The Japanese caterers are terrified again because they think it's a lion still. How they think it's a lion still, I don't know. The boss just lays there like a dead person on the ground the entire time this chaos ensues. So it's very comical. Anyway, so the event's ruined. And then she's like, tomorrow he goes.
She calls this time herself.
Yeah. And he's upset about it, but at this point it's like, what else are we gonna do? So the next morning comes, she's outside, she's putting the stuff up. He's like, oh, when are the caterers coming to get this? And she's like, they're not coming back here. Like, they're never coming back. This is all our stuff now. We have to take care of it. And he's like, okay, well, whatever. So Brutus, I guess, got himself into some trouble, but he shouldn't have been because technically it's Chloe's fault, which is technically Fran's fault because she should have never brought the dog out in the first place. But there you go. Anyway, so that happens. In the end, it's trash day apparently after the party, and the trash man comes and puts the dumpster thing down to put empty the trash cans in to hit the dumpster to put it in the back of the truck. Well, Brutus is sitting out there and he's acting normal first. But then Chloe, once again, is going through this trash and accidentally falls into the trash bin. The trash can.
A reoccurring thing in this film that we didn't talk about is that the Dachshund pups just like keep eating the food that gets left behind, whether it's like the cake, like it was like the birthday cake and whatever. So like she was just like grubbing her way into the trash.
Like I said, they keep getting themselves into mischief. So I pretty much covered it, but they eat things, they destruct things.
Yeah. But she grubs her way into the trash.
Yes. So she falls into the trash can. The trash guy doesn't see this, dumps it in, and then at this point, like, Brutus is like upset about this because he knows that Chloe's in there and he thinks that that's his sister. So he's upset. And he won't let the trash guy get back in the car. And then the trash guy yells for Mark to come out. And he's like, listen, like, I don't have to take this. Like, what's going on? And then they start hearing whining. And they're like, what is that? And he goes, well, you don't think that one of the doxies is in there? And she's like, I don't know. I haven't seen Chloe. And then, so Mark climbs up into the back of the trash truck, finds Chloe, and he's like, well, she's okay, as she has lettuce leaves on her head. And then at that point, Fran's like, okay, we're not getting rid of
He's a hero.
Brutus because he saved her pride and joy. So
She actually cooks Brutus breakfast.
yeah, she said, "Did your dad feed you breakfast yet?" Whatever. This lady. So they decided not to get rid of Brutus, and then the vet does end up talking Mark into getting him to do the show dog because he thinks he can win his class. But Mark's not going to tell Fran about it. So Fran's got her Chloe there participating. And then you see a bunch of big dogs, and I think it's a working class dogs was what he was part of. And he's there and he's competing against these other Great Danes. And then this lady is like at the side of the show watching them, and she's holding a Dachshund. And then when Brutus sees the Dachshund, he starts crawling around on the ground like he's walking like a Dachshund.
Yeah, he starts to act like a Dachshund.
And then the judge is like, "What is going on?" He's like, "Okay, stop. And then the Dachshund lady goes away, and then the vet's like, you gotta get him to stand up. He's like, "I don't know what to do." I mean, he thinks he's the doxy again. I don't know what to do. And then this black and white Great Dane female shows up.
Incredibly ugly dog. I'm sorry. Like I was like, that's the dog. Sorry. Go ahead.
Anyway, a female black and white Great Dane shows up standing on the sidelines, and then all of a sudden Brutus is like, "Oh, I can set up proper. I want her to notice me." And then all of a sudden
he becomes a Great Dane.
Yeah. And then the judge has Mark walk Brutus again, and then some other guy walk his dog again. And then when they come back over to the side, he goes, "I won't throw you out, but I want to know how you did it. I want to know how you switched dogs." And he's like, "I didn't switch dogs." And then that's when he had them walk again. And he ended up winning the blue ribbon for that event.
Yeah, and he was all excited.
You look very confused.
So basically
I was trying to figure out why you were confused.
Oh, okay. I can keep going, but you can go if you want.
No, that's fine. So anyway, Mark is so excited that he won. He can't wait to tell Fran. So, and then the vet's like, "Wait, like now you have to go to the next da 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 da."
Best
And
in class.
he's like, "Well, I don't care about that. I won a blue ribbon. I got to go tell Fran."
Rub it in her face.
Yeah. So he's like, "Here, take my place." So he gives his number to the vet, and the vet at that point then has to be the leader of the show dog. So poor Brutus got his swap. I don't know. So anyway, Mark finds Fran, and she's got Chloe, and she's got a red ribbon, and she's like, "Hey, we won second place." And he's like, "Oh, that's great." And she's like, "Yeah, well, I'm not one for like all these people and stuff. We should just go home." And he was like, "Well, okay." And then he starts to put the ribbon in his pocket. She's like, "What's that?" And he was like, "Oh, nothing." And she's like, "No, what was it?" And he was like, "Oh, just a blue ribbon I found back there." And she's like, "Well, those are special here. You just don't go around picking up blue ribbons. We should take it back." And then that's when they hear like best of working class and best of all around or whatever. And then he was like, at that point, he tells her like, "Brutus won this." And she goes, "No way."
Because she had started to apologize, and that's when she was like, I don't want to apologize in front of people. Let's leave. So go ahead.
Yeah. So then they run off to go see Brutus, and Brutus is winning all these awards as the vet's walking by, and he's like, "Hey, best in class." And it's just like, okay. And then they leave the dog show, and then you're back in the living room again, and they have a frame that's got a ribbon of every color in it. And apparently he did win 2 blue ribbons that day, but they only framed one because Mark gave the other one to the vet, which I thought was
Yeah,
nice.
he won like a first place, second place. because he ran the gambit basically of colors.
Yeah, and then he was like, "Well, I don't think we should do show dogs anymore. Like we should just have regular old dogs. I'll work, you stay home. We'll do
For
that
this amazing house on his
somehow."
salary.
Yeah. So then they decided they're not going to do that. They seem much happier. Seemed like it worked out for them. And then one of the closing lines was, "Females always make the difference," and that's what he told Fran,
Because
she's like, "Do you really think that female dog had anything to do with Brutus winning?" And he's like, "Females always make the difference."
Because the pups were napping, and they were like, Brutus is moving, and they were like, yeah, because he's dreaming probably of the female dog from the show, and then there was like, females make the difference, and then the movie ended.
Yeah.
Females make the difference.
Mm-hmm.
That's the message out of this entire movie about a dog that didn't fit in.
Yep, I gave it a 9. I'm just kidding. Yeah, it was definitely like a rocky relationship with this couple. Hopefully it's better for them now. Who knows? Anyway, some trivia tidbits. So I mentioned the Lady and the Tramp reference. The movie earned $6 million, which was considered a hit in 1966, and it received the Box Office Magazine Blue Ribbon Award for the month of March that year. So another blue ribbon. Brutus, the Great Dane that appears in this movie, also appeared in as one of the guardians of the Great Danes in the Swiss Family Robinson. Specifically, I think it said he was Duke. So he played in the Swiss Family Robinson in 1960.
It was a good film. It recently fell off my list. Sorry.
Poor Tommy Kirk. And in this movie, Suzanne, that played Fran, is obsessed with Dachshunds, but in real life, she shared her home with a Yorkshire Terrier named Missy. And she explained that her dog could actually smell all of the dogs on her that she was working with on set, and would get very upset about it. So before she would go home and leave set, she would have to change clothes and shower just so
she was like a cheating person.
Yeah, so
she is a horrible person, huh?
So her dog wouldn't be upset with her. Yeah, that's pretty much all the little cute tidbits that I thought was like worth mentioning. But
yeah, I mean,
do you have any thoughts?
No, I mean,
other than she was a horrible person.
I mean,
females make the difference.
I mean, that's fine.
She's a terrible person.
She was a terrible person. She was a whole lot like Cruella de Vil. She even talked like Cruella de Vil. There was a lot of 101 Dalmatian references, maybe on that film so much.
And ironically, the Great Dane female actually was colored like a Dachshund. Or not a Dachshund, a Dalmatian. So here you go.
Dude, that was an ugly dog. But like even when he was like, "Shut up, you idiot," like, which is a line right from 101 Dalmatians, whatever. But I don't like it as much as 101 Dalmatians. But go ahead with your ratings, and then I'll go ahead and with mine. So I'm not gonna like many films as much as 101 Dalmatians. So there you go.
All right, whatever. So IMDb gave this a 6.5 out of 10.
Pretty standard.
My initial thought after we watched it was I was going to give this an 8 out of 10. But then I sat there and thought on it for a little bit because I was like, well, Fran actually was a terrible part of the movie. So I downgraded it to a 7 out of 10. It's still pretty high for me, but gave it a 7 out of 10.
Well, does it win the blue ribbon of your list upon a star?
It did not win blue ribbon.
Yeah, because there was no way
it did not bark its way on my list.
There was no way I was going to beat Peter Pan. But go ahead, talk about your list upon a star.
Anyway, my list upon a star: 101 Dalmatians, The Parent Trap, Sleeping Beauty, Dumbo, Lady and the Tramp, That Darn Cat, The Three Caballeros, Moon Pilot, The Shaggy Dog, and Peter Pan.
So the first film of 1966 also does not make mine. This was a fun film. I'm happy we watched it. film of its time for sure. But My List Upon a Star is the superior of the dog movies of 101 Dalmatians, being number one, followed by the masterpiece of Mary Poppins, followed by Peter Pan, which is much higher on my list, where it should be than yours. Alice in Wonderland, which is still on my list, which is not on yours because you don't know what you're talking about. Babies in Toyland, which is a fantastic film. Pinocchio, The Adventures of Ichabod and Mr. Toad, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, Sleeping Beauty, and That Darn Cat. We don't share a lot of same films. What's that? Just one, two,
You do realize we are complete opposites, so it's fine.
Four films that are on both our lists, which is whatever, it's almost half. But so yeah, we watched the first film in 1966. 1966 is going to be a pivotal year for the company, which we'll touch on more as we dive deeper into the year. For those who don't know, but our next film will be movie number 79. We are up to number 79 from July of 1966. It is the return of our dear friend, Mr. Dick Van Dyke, who, again, appears really high on my list over here, with a film that I've never heard of before called Lieutenant Robin Crusoe, USN.
Yeah, I'd never heard of it either.
I look forward to it because Dick Van Dyke and 1966.
I have high hopes for it, so we'll see.
Lieutenant
Hopefully.
Robin Crusoe, USN. We're on Spotify. We are on YouTube, where you can see us bicker about our List Upon a Stars over here. We are on Instagram. We have our email that we would love to hear from you, deepdivingthemagicpod@gmail.com. We would love for you to tell us how you feel about that dog's coat and if it was a good looking dog or not. I'm not going to put up a picture because that's rude. But again, deepdivethemagicpod@gmail.com, and we like to, we'll talk to you soon.
Thanks for Deep Diving Magic.
Bye.
Bye.